Hey everyone, I'm Travis Wright, and you're listening to I'm a Fan of, your show for music, comedy, and more. As always, if you are a musician, a comedian, or just someone that does something interesting, please reach out to me on Instagram at TravisCanListen. You can find me on Facebook at I'm a Fan of, or you can reach out to me through the website at I'mAFanOfPod.com. Of course, if you just enjoy the show, please follow me there as well, and like and subscribe to the podcast so you can keep up to date with all the new shows. This episode, we bring back a hilarious stand-up comic, of course, another favorite of mine, Steve Gammill. He was on the show all the way back in 2019. So many things have changed since then. I have a child. He has a child now. The podcast was just a baby back then. Now it's grown. His comedy career was a baby back then. Now it's grown. And he came onto the show to give me all the updates about where his comedy career is going. Spoilers, sounded like he's talking about quitting comedy, and I can't believe he's fucking talking about that. So we discuss how he thinks stepping out of comedy might be something he wants to do right now, which is fucking absurd. But anyway, we talk about it. We also talk about he wants to start a cooking show. He wants to start releasing things about his passion for cooking, and I think it's fantastic. I really hope he does that. So excited to have him back on the show. It was so long ago since he was on. You know, we're practically two different people now, and it's really great to see how much he's grown. On stage, off stage. He's got a new comedy album out. Please, enjoy the show here with a great guy, really fun person to be around, Steve Gammill. The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more. Welcome back, Steve Gammill.
Oh, we're ABR.
Dude,
we
are into it, man.
Okay.
I looked at the old episode that you were on. That was 2019.
Yeah.
2019. I didn't realize it'd been that long since you've been back on the show.
Yeah, at the time, it felt like I was further along comedy years-wise than I
re-listened to it because I was like, I know a little bit of what we talked about. And both of those people, me and you, they seem like totally different ancient people now, don't they?
Yeah. I was getting that feeling, and then I thought about re-listening to it. I was like, that's not going to jazz me up.
No.
Hearing myself being cringy and all that. But.
Well, because I didn't realize back then you were about 2 years into it. And I think that was the 4th or 5th episode of this podcast. Mm-hmm. So both of us were very new at both things. It was really, it was interesting for me to listen to, but then it also got cringy. And about midway, 3/4 of the way through, I was like, okay, that's enough. I've heard enough.
See, I wouldn't have thought about that on your end. I thought you came pretty out of the box, pretty good at this. So,
I don't know.
Or you just meant cringy on my end, and
no, yeah, it was all you. It was all terrible on your end. No, you realize that just talking to people is a skill, and that it's difficult. Now I even catch myself just talking to people randomly in public just to work on that skill. And more specifically, I'll try to talk to people that I know I will not get along with to see, like, can you make this work?
Yeah, and don't have an awkward part. And
like maybe they're just someone who I think is a dummy, or I have huge different political beliefs from them, and I'll just try to see, like, can I keep a conversation going?
That some more.
Well, on
Get
what?
Specific about those.
On politics? Yeah, absolutely.
That.
Well, first of all, if you think black people should have rights, I don't want to talk to you.
No, I didn't know we were going to agree. This is great.
No. But just to find, like, I want to try to talk to people about things that are not the weather, that are not your, like, how's work? Like, can I get them talking about real things? And it's kind of a fun experiment. Yeah. Most people I've noticed will really open up.
And the secret is you ask them about themselves.
Yeah. Like, I'll try to find, like, if I had never met you before, I'd be like, what's Showdown Saloon? Your hat that you're wearing.
Right.
And then just try to get you going. And then eventually you start saying something like, oh, well, my wife and I went there one time. And they're like, oh, how long have you guys been married? And then eventually it just starts getting into stuff that's off topic, and you just go. And it's pretty fun. What I've really enjoyed about it is talking to people that I'm more liberal. When I find people that have really conservative beliefs, that's when it's more interesting, because if you're not challenging them, if you're just kind of asking them questions, you're starting to really see why they're believing whatever it is they're believing.
Yeah, when they're not defensive.
When they're not defensive, yeah. And, like, I bumped into a guy at the dog park, and I don't remember how we got on politics, but he was like, well, California's coming for your gas stoves now. And I was like, oh, they are? I was like, I haven't heard about this. And I was like, we had gas in our home, but we thought we might want to rent it out later, and we were worried about, a renter and gas and causing us problems. So we pulled it all out and just put, like, a water heater on the outside that works really well off gas, so there's none in the house. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess, if I had a house without gas like that, I guess that wouldn't be too bad. And, like, eventually you're just talking about shit.
Yeah.
And it's very disarming, and that's kind of why I liked it. And then, of course, it weaves back into, like, fucking Biden. He gets those moments, but you ultimately are still just kind of in talking about it all. And then you learn a lot about that person and you realize like, all right, they just think differently than I do. Once you know how they got there, it kind of all makes sense. Now, I don't know how to change their mind, but but I can at least empathize a little more. It's been fun. So I don't know. I think that's the skill I've been trying to hone more and more and more is when you just talk to people.
If I was to do that experiment, my whole thing would be like keep a natural conversation going and not talk about myself too much.
It's hard.
I think that's from your chair. I think that's a huge challenge, and that's like my favorite podcasts are all by comedians who in and of itself.
Who's your favorite podcast?
I like Tuesdays with Stories. It's a bad example of what
those
I'm
guys are
talking
great
about.
though. Yeah. Because that's Joe List and Mark Norman, right?
Yeah. I slept on that one for so long because they didn't have guests and do interviews. And I was like, I want one comedian to ask another comedian or something adjacent. Like, that's what I'm interested in. And then I finally listened to it, and I almost didn't listen to anything else for a while.
I almost didn't like it because you feel like it's fake because the average person who tries to keep that type of show going, they have to fake it. And then the more you listen to it, you realize, like, no, these guys are this way. And it just goes on and on.
This is how they would be if the mics were off.
Yeah. And so once I crossed that little hurdle where I was like, oh, they're not phony. This is these two dudes. Then I really started enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah, especially if you can go back. Like, I think you need the Patreon now or whatever. But go back before they were, especially Mark Norman's kind of blown up and all that.
Yeah.
But go back to when they were both, like, starting to work with Louis C.K. and like getting to open for these big guys and all that, and they're just like they think no one's listening. No one was really listening at that point, and that's when it's like really interesting.
Yeah,
and now they're kind of to the point where they have to like they're so busy they have to record like 3 episodes in a row and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys have to do that now.
Yeah.
The Berts and the Toms and everybody, and you can tell when it's the second or third one. It's starting to dry up.
It is insane how they created this whole revenue stream, though, totally outside.
It's bonkers, dude.
It's wild, and it's really interesting. Mark Norman blew up so quick. It feels so quick. Obviously, it wasn't.
Yeah,
but what I mean is,
10-year overnight success.
Well, he was working so hard for so long, and then it felt like it was just a couple of years when it finally skyrocketed for him. Because I remember watching him at Addison Improv, where he was there for probably a Friday, Saturday or something. And then the next year when he came back, he sold out like 6 shows at that same Improv. And then now I'm sure he's going to do a theater if he comes back.
I think even when he's listening to the pod, he says he likes that room so much that he might keep Dallas as one of his club cities.
I would love that. I think a theater is the max that I like to enjoy comedy in. The club is the ultimate. To me, that's the best space.
Yeah, and, the best thing you can get is the guy that's about to be doing theaters. Like I saw Shane Gillis at Hyenas.
That's right.
I was supposed to open for him.
Yeah.
And then a bump happened. Joey was like supposed to feature. He brought a feature, and Joey was like, "I'll MC. I'll work the door. I just want to hang."
Thanks, man.
But so Joey was like, "Dude, come up anyways. He fucking crushes." And then I went and saw him, and that's the hardest I've ever seen anyone kill in that room. And I was like, "No way, he's back next year."
You know what's refreshing about him is he looks like someone that should not be good at comedy because everybody takes comedy very seriously. Like we're coming out of this big, extremely woke movement where people want they want really smart, intelligent comedy in a lot of ways, and he comes in kind of like a drunk buffoon with this persona, and it makes me think of a guy that I would just be hanging out drinking beers with who's just cracking jokes the whole time.
He reminds you of the guy that you used to love, like in high school.
Yes,
and now you're like, I still love Steve, but I don't really kick it with him anymore. He still drinks heavy, and he's still, and like maybe he brings some of that back or brings it out for us. But back to your previous point, that's a guy that has not wild like alt-right views or anything like that, but he's definitely like, no, a lot of the left stuff is stupid, and here's why. And you're like, well, yeah, but it's not, he gets you to question because he's making you laugh when he's doing innocuous stuff. He's bagging on Trump, then he's like, but you got to give him this. And you're like, well, So I think he's doing a service in that way.
Yeah, I think him and, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name right now? The white guy who's a little heavy and he's gay and he's loud.
Oh, Tim Dillon?
Tim Dillon, thank you. He's the same way. I made my wife watch his special, and the only reason I made her is because she can't stand loud comedy, loud shows. Like, she would never watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because there's too much yelling.
Yeah.
And Tim Dillon is very loud. And I was like, you got to watch him, though. He's really funny. So she powered through that. And then at the end, she's like, yeah, he's hilarious. I don't ever want to watch it again, but he was funny.
Right.
And we were talking about how you could cut out as many different 3 or 5 minute segments that you wanted. And on one, he's going to seem like a liberal. On another, he's going to seem like a conservative. And you really you can't fit him into a box in terms of ideology and politics.
And shouldn't that be how we all
That's how it should
are?
be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Shane Gillis does
comics.
well, too.
If you're looking at everything in an analytical way like you should as a comic.
I think some people do it really well. I'm blanking on names horribly bad today.
Give me another one.
The Australian Jim Jeffries.
Yeah.
Like he's got his great gun control bit that he does, and he tends to lean really hard left in a lot of his comedy, but it's really well thought out. And I like that. But then sometimes I just want the drunk guy like Shane Gillis. He's like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then he hits you with a couple things that are stupid. He's like, I don't know, maybe it's just me.
That's a pretty good impression.
Yeah. And it's silly, man. I think comedy's getting back to a very silly area, and I'm really looking forward to that kind of new wave of just, let's be more lighthearted about everything. Like, stuff has kind of sucked for a while. Let's chill out and have a really good time.
Yeah, I'm kind of tough on the like anti-woke, for lack of a better, whatever. And it's like, especially because a lot of these guys are left-leaning on everything, but because their job is, they don't want to be censored, they like act like they can't see even how somebody could be like. It's just Joe. It's like, well, you said the fucking most edgelordy, like outlandish thing.
Yeah.
So do that, be Mark Norman and say the shit and know that you're going to get blowback and then just deal with that. That's part of the job. And some people are never going to get it.
Yeah.
But it's like these guys, especially when you're lower down, whether you're an open micer or just like trying to move up the ranks, and you're going, I don't know. I came out there and the first thing I said was black people shouldn't have rights or whatever you open with, and like,
and you're like, I don't know why it didn't.
And it ruffled some feathers. It's like, well, dude. But so I think you're right about the kind of the way things are going. Is like we've been going over and over of why people shouldn't get offended, and then like hopefully it's coming in the other way of like. You can't just fucking be...
Yeah, because the initial...
can't say whatever Tony Hinchcliffe said and then be confused about it,
Yeah,
what I mean?
I was just talking to somebody about that because they didn't... It was somebody that I know that didn't realize Pung was from the DFW area. And that whole interaction between Pung and Tony went down and all that stuff. And I was kind of explaining it, and they're like, well, what did he actually say? And I brought up the clip, and they're like, oh, yeah, even for a guy who pushes the limits, that's not... You're out of line on that one, and I think if he would have immediately come out and just been like, all right, I took it too far, Pung, my bad, won't be throwing stuff out like that again, let's do a couple shows together, water under the bridge, it might have been different, right?
Yeah.
But to really cling on to that and just be like, no, we're comics, we can say anything and everything. And I love South Park. I think everything should be on limits, like everything's funny or nothing is. But also another good rule is if you swapped it out with the N-word and it's horrible, maybe don't do that also. Like you can't, there's no line, but there is a line. It's kind of a weird...
Yeah, or you deal with the consequences, which is what he did, but...
Yeah, he dug in deep.
And for better or for worse, now his fans they'll never leave him.
No, and I still enjoy the Kill Tony show. I think there's been a marked difference from L.A. to Austin in terms of just the overall attitude and like even the... Tony's presentation on stage, and I think he's doing what he wants to do. But it definitely feels a little. I don't even know. His show's doing so well for him, which is great. But it seems like he's got a lot of sycophants. Maybe like this is amazing. It's always amazing. Everything you say is amazing, which is not. That's not great.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it to speak on it, but I think it's kind of a weird vibe down there of the like Death Squad crew and like I don't know, just it's such a small group to like for everyone to be jockeying to be seen by.
Yeah.
That I think that's getting that attitude that these 5-6 guys walk on water, and I don't know, maybe that's not it, because it's a huge scene, and there's a lot of really funny people, and I've never seen the scene in a place like LA where those guys came from, and maybe it's similar out there, and I'm just comparing it to our kind of little amateur scene here, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. When Joe Rogan opens his club, it might be open by the time this episode comes out.
Really?
Yeah. You know, that'll be an interesting experiment of what's going to happen in Austin, Texas, now that this new club with Rogan's exposure behind it. But he claims it's going to be a place for the little guy, that you're going to have comics who are brand new being able to come in there and work. You know, I guess there's going to be lots of open mics and things like that as well. So,
well, I'm wondering, is he going to do it 7 days a week, which I think is how the store works. Which
Why not?
Where
if anybody could, I think he could do it.
And the town could support it. They have local shows 7 days a week, and that's like sometimes when I go to other scenes, like I went to Denver and had a friend of a friend reach out to somebody there and put me on a show, and it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night in a sushi place, and it was packed, and it was a great show, and I was just like, you guys do this every month? They're like, no, every week. I'm like, DFW could never fill this place up, have people pay. And you know what I mean? Like,
so is it their comedy fans in those areas? Like, what do you think we don't have here?
I think we don't have people that like...
We have the clubs. I wonder why we can't have a club that sustains even 5 days a week.
I mean, I just don't think we have people that like art in general that much, or, you know, like, I'm naming pretty, like, artist-friendly towns when I say Austin and Denver, and then, of course, you know, the big hubs, but... It's not anything bad. I mean, it's just that's not the way Cowtown is ever going to be, I don't think. You know, we try. We put up cool shit. You know, you got places like Maine at Southside where bands that aren't big enough to go to this theater or that place, and then they last a few years, and then they shut their doors.
Yeah, because it's closed now, right? Yeah, they were doing lots of bands, lots of comedy shows. But yeah, you're right, because I would go to some of the open mics or the showcases at Mass, and it looked like it was pulling teeth to get people to show up there on a weeknight anyway.
That's for you, Breckenridge. We saw your hard work, and
I mean, nothing was wrong with the show. Everything was great. It's just there. You look around and there's 15 people, and that's it. And that's the little thing I can't crack yet is what keeps someone from saying on a Tuesday or Wednesday, like, let's do this tonight instead of, just a boring dinner or whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's chicken or the egg, if we don't have enough people to headline a show once a week, once a month in a little restaurant bar type venue, then, it starts out good and then it fades and then the crowds are like, it's hit or miss. Then they don't show up. Then, you know what I mean? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but...
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this thing, because I was thinking about Louis C.K. is doing Madison Square Garden. He's not calling it a special. He's calling it a live event. So he's going to have it all recorded, and then you and me who aren't in New York can pay $25 to watch it live, and then it'll be up for you to stream also for like 2 or 3 months, and then he's going to pull it down forever. So it's kind of a different take on it, right?
Yeah. Isn't Chris Rock doing...
He might be. I don't know.
I think he's doing the first live Netflix event, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, so similar thing then.
Yeah, I wonder
to kind of go back to Mark Norman, I wonder then if there's a way to, like, maybe Mark Norman always does the Addison Improv, and we set up a bunch of VR cameras, and you buy a ticket in the crowd from your home. So now all of a sudden you could sell, 10,000 tickets at the Addison Improv, with your virtual tickets and your in-person ones. And it seems like that might be the way forward with local comedy even, too. Like, I can't make it out to your Wednesday show, but if you stream it, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know that comics are really iffy about having stuff recorded and put up anywhere because it feels like it sets that in stone from then on,
Yeah. I worked with a guy in Wichita, Eric Knowles, and he was doing the same thing on a small scale. He was doing our, late show Saturday or whatever, and then he was live streaming it, and that's not even, that room holds like 120 people and it wasn't even full, and then he's got, I don't know, dozen or two people watching live on his
That's pretty cool.
stream.
How did he like doing it?
I think he was kind of just playing around with the idea, but I think he liked the fact that he could make a little bit extra money on the road. But then it's like, back to what you were saying, well, how many times can you do that? You can't do that. Your set's the same, basically, from town to town. So what do you do that once a...
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Speaking of setting it in stone, you've recorded a comedy album.
It's out there.
Apologetic.
It's in the world, yeah.
What made you finally decide, I want to put this down?
Mana asked me, do you want to record?
Had you thought about recording before she asked you?
No, but I think it's kind of because I just had my mind on other things and other goals. Mm-hmm. And then kind of, I guess, serendipitously, when she asked me, it was when I would just barely have that amount of time. Like, I think I did 55 minutes and we maybe edited it to 45 or something like that. So if you don't even have, and that's like, she's like, throw out everything you have. And that's the only reason I had that much. So it's not like, if you'd have given me another X amount of time, I might have been like, all right, I've got this hour. I want to put it on wax and start on something else. And then that is how I ended up feeling about it, was like, I'm done with these jokes. Some of them, basically all of them were post-pandemic, but that's how old they basically were. So by the time I recorded, the oldest jokes were like 3 years old, but that's pretty old.
Post-pandemic or pre-pandemic?
Post.
Okay.
There was stuff, that's how I kind of remember it, is like there was stuff that I was writing right before the world shut down and maybe had performed it once before. And so that was like what I was working on.
Gotcha.
And then everything else I either wrote during the lockdown, a couple things. We all said, like, when we thought it was going to be 6 months, like, I'm going to come out with 10 minutes of new material.
Yeah.
And then we all got up there and was like, so anyone online dating or what? Like, what? You can't talk about online dating when no one's left the house in 9 months?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to bring it up now then, if I'm going to keep asking more questions. Is this, in a way, is I don't know if it's temporary or not, but you're saying this is kind of a farewell to comedy for now?
Yeah. The album is just in itself a culmination of the 5 years that I did stand up. And then the sabbatical is, I don't know. I'm saying it's just a break forever. just
a break forever.
Just taking a hiatus indefinitely. But
did you know this before you recorded it? Did you know, like, all right, I'm going to put it out there. We're going to, sign, sealed, delivered. This is what's in this way.
No, I was still working on.
Okay.
I have maybe, depending on how you look at it, 5-10 minutes of stuff I was trying to get good after I recorded and stuff. But I was about to say, I don't know when the idea kind of first cropped into my head, but all the time. I mean, if you, my favorite thing is Joey Johnson's Instagram handle is Joey Quits Comedy.
Yeah.
And I just identify with that so much. Like, but it's just what, I also say I'm going to kill myself all the time. I'm not really going to do it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I don't know when I actually, when it kind of first became like a thing I was really considering and kind of like weighing the options. But I was definitely, I was dedicated to not making it like a snap decision. So I was like, I think I still had some loony bin weekends and stuff like that. And I was still enjoying them, but I was also like, it got harder and harder to leave the house for like the 5 days it ends up being to do those. And then, the album came out. I was super proud of it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go until the end of the year, and then I'll look at it. And then it ended up being like, I'm going to take 2 months, and then I'll look at it. And then, it's been about 2 months, and I don't know. I miss it, but I'm also like, it's hard for me to see now of how I will schedule it back into my life. Because it wasn't so much wanting to like be over and done with, but I want to not suck at it. So if I decided like, you and I can leave here and go find some stage time somewhere, but if the next time I can get up and do that is 2 weeks from now,
right,
then it's, I don't know how that looks from like a writing standpoint and from a like,
So is that more just because of like a work-family balance type thing, or?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, man. It's really hard. Even with just this podcast, finding time, it's like, God, my wife and I, it's like we work the calendar like crazy just to try to make sure we don't ever forget anything. Mm-hmm. And you still forget all the stuff, that's important a lot of times. When did, you said it made it harder to go away for like 5 days at a time.
Yeah. What's funny is first of all, we have a COVID baby. We have a little pandemic baby. And
I think our kids are only like 6 months apart, right?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ours was February 2020.
Yeah, July 2020.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I was trying to think because I remember the first time we did this podcast, you were asking me advice about my oldest daughter, who was like 8 at the time, I think.
So I guess my wife would have been pregnant then.
Yeah, yeah, you had just found out.
Yeah, that's right. That guy's dead and gone.
Right. But I was also, for better or for worse, I was traveling pretty quickly when things started opening back up again. Mm-hmm. So my daughter was born July 2020, and I think late July, early August, me and Tyler Elliott went and did some road shows.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, and we have a good little support system, my mom and her mom and all that. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to feel too much guilt about leaving and stuff like that. But then when she's like 2, and she's learning 5 new words a day, and just everything she does is a milestone and stuff like that. You come back from a Wednesday through Sunday little road trip, and you've missed some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm gonna send you, when we leave here today, I'm gonna send you this Sturgill Simpson song. Mm-hmm. It's like, I didn't fully appreciate the song or the album until we had a kid, because he wrote a full album, and the whole theme it's called A Sailor's Guide to Earth.
Yeah.
And the opening track starts as this piano ballady, kind of strange. You're like, what are we doing here, Sturgill? And then it breaks into kind of like a Motown thing with trumpets and stuff. But the whole song is about him welcoming his son, to Earth. That's the opening track. My son's born, and throughout the song, it's basically him talking about he's a musician and he's going on tour, and every time he comes back, these milestones have been achieved without him, and it's he's happy, but it breaks his heart that he's missing it all, but you're still growing. And it's once I had a kid and heard that song, I was like, it's just such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
He loves his kid.
Right. I've definitely heard that and just been like, oh, this slaps. Not paid attention to
Dude,
what it was
listen
about,
to the lyrics, and it's you realize it's the same thing where you're like, I want to pursue this, but 1 week for a 2-year-old is a ton of growth sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is the kids will get, and my oldest daughter is now at a really cool age. Once she puts her phone down, she's awesome to talk to.
Once she puts the phone down.
Yeah, she's a half-formed person. It's not just oh, it's cute. She thinks she's people. You can have some deep life talks, but the kids will get older, and the other thing is you can justify that. That's been through the ages, you're traveling salesman. You're like, hey, Dad leaves for a week. When I come home, I bring home the bacon and, whatever. But when you're scraping by to do those, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. The person that I'm leaving at home is the breadwinner of the family. So.
Yeah, that's a really unique dynamic. But she also knew this going into it. You guys were dating as you were doing this, right?
Yeah. And she's never even suggested that I.
No, I'm not saying she has, but it'd be so interesting to have a series talking to, spouses or family members, the people who are on the back end of comedy, and hear their opinions, their sides. Because I only ever hear the comedian side of it. Of traveling and everything. And you don't hear the other side of it. And I bet they have some really interesting thoughts on,
you could listen to, I don't think it ever really became a ongoing thing, but Bert Kreischer's wife started a thing called Wife of the Party.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And I think she interviews other comedians' wives and stuff like that.
I need to check that out then, because she's on another level dealing with his ass.
Yeah, that's a whole different, it's not just my guy as an entertainer. It's I think takes his morning shower in his swimming pool.
Yeah.
I think
he's so disgusting
all
the
about
time.
Shane being like, the guy from high school.
Yeah. Bert, who I know listens to this show, I can't stand to listen to him in interviews, but I think he's so funny as a stand-up comic.
And sometimes it goes the other way, too.
Yeah. It goes the other way. I won't say who it goes the other way with because I don't want to be mean and like disrespect their comedic performances. But yeah, there's about 4 or 5 people who I don't care to ever watch their stand-up, but I really enjoy their podcast.
The best is when you first, you kind of know of them, and then you hear them on Joe Rogan, and you're like, dude, I got to check this guy out. And then you're like, oh, is this for adults?
Or I wanted to like you so much. You're so terrible. Yeah, I won't drop names on those. I don't want to be that guy. But that's interesting. So you started to realize spreading that time thin when you're not bringing home a bunch of money with it is harder to justify, basically?
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, which is, I was just starting to make a living off the thing. Mm-hmm. Not like a full time, but like on the weekends I would go out. Mm-hmm. I would find,
From my perspective, it seemed like things are going well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it never stopped a positive trajectory.
Yeah.
And maybe that, made it easier to like look at things realistically, because I don't make a lot of adult, mature decisions in my life. So this might have been one of the few. I'm gonna go on record saying I don't think you're gonna stay away from it too long. I think that 10 minutes that you have that didn't go on your album, I think it's gonna be itching at you. And whenever the time's right, you'll do it. But I think it'll be sooner rather than later when you decide, nah, fuck it, I'm going to be back doing more shows. I think taking a little sabbatical is probably wise to, 1, clear your head, 2, spend the family time that you feel like you're missing. And then I think you'll reevaluate and you'll find a way to make it work, right? Because it's one of those things where when you're in it, I don't think, not just comedy, but anything, like when you're so focused on how to make something work, it seems like you can't make it work, right? And then the moment you go for a jog or something and you're not thinking about it, it's like, oh, we can do it that way. I never even thought about doing it that way. So yeah, dude, clear your head, see what's happening. But I don't think it'll be gone for very long. Kind of the one of the aha moments of like, am I actually thinking about like seriously considering this was like, okay, well at this point, and it's like you're saying, it was going well. Mm-hmm. But I still am like going, okay, even if it keeps gradually going well like it has, I'm still not moving to New York and trying to get on Netflix or whatever the thing is. Mm-hmm. And that was always kind of my big baggage, was that I started later in life, relatively. And so it's like, can never take my foot off the gas. All of my... Yeah, you're playing catch up in your mind. Yeah, all of my buddies that were all kind of doing the same thing and whatever, they're all 24, eternally 24 somehow. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that was like my hang up. Like you can't, you're already behind, you got to whatever. And then I'm like, okay, even if you get to X spot as your goal, that's still realistically another 5 years. Of maybe grinding it out. You know what I mean? But once I realized that, I'm like, well, if that's the case, then say I take a year off or 2 years or whatever, I'm still not going to be 24. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think you're really in your head about it. That's my take on it. I think you're overthinking it way too much. But what I will say, what I will say is, like, if you're looking at it as a job, right? If you going on the road to do shows all weekend, it's like if you're punching into a job and you're just not happy to be there, and I don't mean like nobody's happy to be at work, but if you're like, fuck, back at it again or whatever, then it's time to quit that job, right? Yeah. And if you have the ability to do that, then you should. So it's like if you're not getting the thrill out of doing it, then yeah, I think it's probably time to take a break from it. Yeah, there was some of that, you know what I mean? But that's always kind of been my thing. If you talk to like your average open micer, they're going to tell you, dude, if you wouldn't fucking get up here and do this for free every night of the week for the rest of your life, then you shouldn't be doing it. It's like, well, then I shouldn't, because I want to get better. I want to get paid. I want to do shows that don't suck. I want to not have to do this many open mics every week. Yeah. So all these big names that I love, if they weren't making money at this point in their career, 20, 30 years in, they would not still be doing it. Yeah. They just wouldn't be. They would have gotten a job doing something else.
it's like, yeah, there's the love, but there's also the practicality of, this is still real life. And it's also easy to say that for an open micer who's like 24, 25, doesn't have any kids, doesn't have a spouse, doesn't have anyone depending on them in any way. It's like, yeah, that's a cute little line at that point.
Or not even depending. Like, this is like your social thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
So, like,
this
even if you go
club.
up and bomb, that's 5 minutes of your night. You're getting drunk and having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting. We'll see where it goes. What are you going to do with your spare time?
Well, pretending that I have
some. Yeah.
My new project, and that was one of the things when I talked about it with Katie. I was like, yeah, so this is, something I'm considering. She's like, all right, well, what are you going to do with your creative juices? What's going to be your outlet?
Yeah, because you can't turn that off.
And I was like, no, that means I don't have to do anything. I get to fucking go to the gym and be a dad and have fun. She's like, you'll not only go crazy, you'll drive me fucking nuts if you don't have a thing. And she was like, not against the idea of the radical sabbatical, but she was not like, oh God, finally. You know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
She was realistically trying to be like, kind of like you're saying. She's like, okay, so you're gonna take a week off. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But so then she's like, well, what would you do? And I do a podcast with a couple of buddies of mine. I was like, I'll do that, and then maybe I'll. The cooking show idea I've been kicking around, maybe we'll give that a shot. She was like, yeah, you should do that. And I was like, yeah, I should. So I think the first episode's going to be a pizza at the end. And just like the wheels started turning on that.
Yeah.
And that's, so that's where the obsession is, I guess, right now. It's not like where do your creative juices need to go. It's like, what are you going to be spending way too much?
I am really excited about that for you. I've always loved that. We tried to make something work, get recording something for you to do little episodes, and same thing. I didn't have any time.
Oh,
and I still feel so bad about that. You don't know how many times a year I think about how do I make that work with Steve, and then I'll talk to my wife, and she's like, "You don't have time for this," and I'm like, "You're right, I don't." But when I saw you finally just busting out like your phone and just recording stuff your own way, I was like, yes, just get it done. Because the food always looks so good, and you can tell you love doing it. It's like I still don't know what your end path is going to be with food, but I can tell that you like making food and you like seeing people enjoy the food you made.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's not just like look at me making this and look how good I am at this. You genuinely. What did you make for us that time? Was it Eggs Benedict? Whenever?
Yeah. The pulled pork.
Yeah, and it's like when we're done just eating it, you're like, it's good, right? Like, are you enjoying it? Did you try this? It's like, okay, so he actually loves this.
Yeah, well, I think it's both. Like, I do still, like, if I cook something and I make it for you and you sit there and eat it, I'm like, and is there something you want to? But really, it's like my love language is carbs. You know what I mean? Like, it's. I think it's tied in with all that. It's like a gift giving and an act of service and a whatever. But yeah, so that part is real. But I think when I originally started talking to you about it, the idea was that like to make it in stand up, you have to have another thing, online presence, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the go-to is like a podcast. But I was like, if I don't have an idea for something different about the podcast, like I said, I wouldn't be a good interview. I'd want to talk about myself and, like so many bad comedy podcasts do. And so I was like, and I realized later what I wanted to do was Something's Burning with Bert Kreischer.
Oh.
That's like basically my idea, which he didn't need. He's got 7 podcasts and whatever. He just, for some reason, wanted to do a 14th thing.
Yeah.
But, they cook and they talk, and it was like, it would be like a podcast, but it's something I can kind of see doing. But if you were going to do something like that, the production team you would need and everything would be.
Well, how do you think you'll do it at this point then? Because eventually you could still get to that point. So what do you think is kind of your starting point now?
The way I kind of have it figured, and I have one already recorded in the audio and everything, it's going to be a mix of overdubbing with sprinkled in some kind of live shots.
Because the one I'm thinking of, like the first one you kind of posted, that wasn't anything serious. You were just like, I did this.
Yeah,
that was a
just
pizza,
seeing-
right? And you just kind of set it up where it's like showing the pizza on the counter, and you're just talking about the ingredients and what you did, and basically like how to, like almost like a recipe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it'd be kind of like that.
Well, that was for like the short form, basically for Instagram, and it was completely overdubbed.
Okay.
So this will be made for YouTube, and I'll do short stuff, like kind of to promote the YouTube stuff. But that will be the actual product, and so it'll start off with an introduction and little talking head stuff, and then it'll weave in and out of that overdubbed.
That's kind of perfect for you right now because you don't have to leave the house to do it.
Right.
You can still be there, and you could get, like if your daughter's there, you can get her involved a little bit if you don't want to, like, say, I can't spend time with you. I'm doing this thing right now. That's going to be pretty exciting.
I think, yeah. And all the work will be done in the editing and the whatever.
Are you editing it?
Production. Yeah. So
that's a fun little rabbit hole to go down, isn't it?
Well, so what you may or may not know about old Stevie here is that before I learned how to edit videos in Adobe or whatever, I have to learn how to operate a computer. I'm like the most technologically stupid person that's under the age of 40. So it's even more of a mountain to climb. But I finally, me and you filmed like a test run thing to see how it would look. And then I later reached out to Philip Garcia.
Oh, yeah.
Because he had a food thing fall through. And I was like, hey, you want to take what you were kind of trying to do with those other guys and what like I kind of envisioned and come together and whatever. And we actually filmed an episode with Emily Griefer. And then 5 minutes later, he got a golden ticket on Kill Tony and moved to Austin.
Moved to Austin. That's right.
So, and then this is the third time that I kind of was like reaching out to somebody that wasn't like had a degree in it like Phil, but I was just like, hey, you're more competent than me, and it'll be better to have two eyes. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, it's pretty much going to be me. No one else is going to give a shit. It's going to be better if it's somebody that truly cares and it's their baby and their idea and all that, than somebody that is proficient.
I think you're going to enjoy that route, though, because that's similar to kind of what's going on here. It's like me and Nathan used to do this show together, and I could tell as it was going, like, I mean, I'm saying this, Nathan might say something differently, I don't know, but it seemed like he just was less and less excited about it, right? Because I think it was more my thing than it was his thing.
Yeah, he's on the technical aspect of it.
Yeah, and then I get it in my mind how I want to do it, and trying to convey that to someone else, really difficult sometimes, right? And so once I kind of took control over everything and we parted ways on this, that's when I felt like, okay, I'm making mistakes here and there, but I'm loving every single mistake. You know what I mean? I'm starting to really dial in exactly what it is. And even now, there's so many ways I want to tweak and change all this, but that's the fun part, you know? And then it comes down to just a ton of YouTube research, and, you know, you'll make something that you're like, this is amazing, and then 3 months later you're like, that looks like shit. But you see the growth, and it's more fun, you know. And I think you learning how to do all the editing yourself is going to be a major plus for the the creative end result.
Yeah, and it's also like the stand-up thing. It's like you're never going to get a Netflix special. This may never get 1 million subscribers, so enjoy the fucking process.
Yeah. Well, even when we did that little test run, I remember you talking to me multiple times of like, is it possible for me to like be there with you when we edit and do these things? So you already have the ideas in your mind of how you want things to look. So it's probably better off that you are doing it yourself, so you can just do it exactly the way you want to. Yeah,
and I've got the ability to make the time to watch hours of other people's stuff. There's just stuff you can't ask somebody else to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fortunately, all this shit is getting easier and easier.
Right.
Like, if you're not making, the next Star Wars or something, then there's a lot you can do without knowing much.
They're making it easier for you, and the tutorials and the information is there, and it's free.
The hardest part is finding the person giving tutorials that you like, because there's 100,000 different ways that people teach it. And it's really just, is this person annoying? Can I listen to this person for 5 or 6 minutes? Okay, I'm going to study this one then.
Well, and that's also the goal for my channel. Is like, I'm not going to do anything that's not already out there.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I can offer is maybe I'll be the guy that somebody likes too.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I can watch like this guy, and I go, well, this guy, you know who Matty Matheson is?
No, I don't think so.
He's like, he's like a celebrity chef, but he's like made his.
I'll look him up while you're talking about him.
Sure, yeah,
I just
you
want
might
to
recognize him.
Yeah, I just want to see the face.
By the way, have you seen The Bear? That show?
Yeah.
He's the one guy that doesn't play a cook, and he's a actual chef.
What's his name?
He plays like the maintenance guy or the friend or something. Matty Matheson.
Matheson, okay.
So, but he is.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. Okay. Oh, yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, he's the one who keeps trying to become a cook or something, and they're like, nah, not you, loser.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah.
But he's an amazing actual chef.
Okay.
And then you watch his YouTube video, and it's just him screaming and being ridiculous and whatever. And I'm like, you're not even saying you're not even saying the measurements of what you're you can't like get a cohesive recipe out of it. So that to me is like pure entertainment with food for some reason.
Sure.
And then some of these videos, like, they're just like, and then add 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Now we're going to move it over to our... And so everything else is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And like, where do you what's your guy?
That's fun. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to rewatch The Bear now that I know that guy's an actual.
Yeah, it does make it
really
funny,
fun.
huh?
Have you watched the latest one on HBO? It's The Menu.
No, but everybody's telling me I should.
It's good. I like literally my wife yelled at me last night because we put the movie on and I immediately picked up my phone and I was just gonna play a game because I was like, this movie's gonna suck. And then she's like, put your phone down. I was like, fine, I'll watch it. And then 10 minutes in, I'm like, this movie's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, but I think you're gonna like it just because the characters that are talking about food, the way they talk about food, I still can't decide if it was meant to be a full-on like suspense thriller or if it is a comedy.
So the first person that told me, everybody says you'll like it, but the first person, my friend Jessica, goes, you're going to love it. It's like hilarious dark humor. And then the next person I talk to about it, I go, yeah, I'm wanting to see it. It's like a dark comedy. They go, it's not, what?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not a comedy.
Yeah. Like I don't want to ruin anything because each piece adds a layer and it's once you know what's happening, you'll never watch it the same again. So I don't want to give you any more details than that. But yeah, there was parts where I'm like, are they going for a big laugh here? Am I missing? Like, how am I supposed to be watching this now?
Yeah.
And it's got the woman that was in the Big Chess series, the one with the big pretty eyes.
The what series?
There was that show where the woman played chess and was like a chess prodigy.
I've watched a Big Chest series with a
Big
girl
Chess.
with big eyes.
Chess. The game Chess. I think it was the Queen's Gambit, maybe. Yeah. Have you seen her?
Oh, well, she didn't have a small chest.
Well, but anyway, she's one of the main characters in it, and she's a good actress, so she does really well. But yeah, you're gonna like it. You can just watch it tonight. I wish you would have watched it before the podcast. Then we could have talked about it more.
Yeah,
I should have given you homework.
Then we wouldn't have to edit this part out.
No, we're gonna leave it all in. Actually, we'll just watch the entire thing right now, and that will be the podcast.
That's what Rogan would do. Jamie, throw that up
pull
real
it up.
quick.
Yeah, I need a Jamie, man. That's exciting, man. The food stuff. What do you think you're going to start with food-wise? You already got a menu going in your head?
Of like episode?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying not to think too far ahead, but the first one's going to be a spinach dip thing. Largely just because it's easy enough. I'm going to be learning on it. And then like I've got this dumb idea in my head of like if somebody watched in chronological order or something like that, I don't want to start off with like sourdough or something, you know what I mean? Something that's like super involved
difficult.
And you'd have to already have some basic knowledge of certain techniques. But so I did this spinach dip. That's the one that I have recorded. And it's also kind of funny because it's just a thing that like I look up a couple recipes on the internet, kind of combine them, tweak them, add bacon to it, and that's a Steve Gammill recipe.
Yeah, but that's exactly what the average person wants to do. They don't want to sit here and do everything from scratch.
Yeah.
They don't have time for that shit.
So it's super easy, and it's also, and I say this in the video, but it's 100% true. I forget what holiday it was, but I brought this to my wife's family gathering. And it was like, and then the next one comes, and they're like, is Steven bringing the spinach dip?
You doing your dip again?
Dude, and then the same thing, Katie had like this work function, and I made it for that, and then the exact same thing. They're like, oh, so we're doing the potluck again. Is your husband, And then I've also turned it into, I do like croissant dough from scratch. So I had the idea if you bought the little Pillsbury crescent things, and then that's another me thing is I'll take anything like that and make it stupidly complicated. So what you could do with Pillsbury crescents in a little muffin tin, I do with real croissant dough that it takes 24 hours to make, and then I just plop the spinach dip in that, and it makes like this puff pastry spinach thing, and it's like savory and spicy, but also, anyways. So if I have the dip thing in place, and a future episode could be those, so it could like build on each other,
right?
And then episode 2 has to be pizza because I got to start getting, my branding going.
Yeah. Well, what's the branding?
Just food that I like.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to do a little bit of everything if I'm lucky enough to keep doing it for a long time, but I'm going to start swinging for the fences and making some.
If you don't have to say it on this show, but the name that we had talked about for the show when we were going to do it, no pressure. If you decide you want to use that, I would love for you to use it. And then if you decide you want to use that, I will attempt to write a theme song for you.
Oh.
But you don't have to use it if you don't want to. If you've already got a great name, then we'll just scratch that completely.
I don't know if it's great, but I have a name, and it's just it was one of those things. It'll be a placeholder till I find something I like more.
Okay.
But I'm just keep saying it and keep.
Yeah.
And I have my brother does graphic design. He's made a logo and everything.
Once the logo's made, it's kind of set because then you start to really see it. You're like, oh, I love this.
So,
you don't have to say the new name, but I might end up writing music. I've realized I enjoy writing little jingles, like little 30-second minute things. You don't have to say it if you don't want to.
No.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell you the name of it, but I'll kind of tell you how I came to it, and then off the air, I'll hound you about that music.
Okay.
That's like the main thing I don't have to finish the first episode is I'm gonna like buy some beats or something. Something.
Okay. Well, before you pay for anything, you should show me that episode and give me what you think you want the title to be, and then I can see if I can come up with anything. Because it's one of those, you may like it, you may hate it, but it's totally free, so you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to call it Food Obsessed with Steve Gammill, and then I found out some fly-by-night jokers called the Food Network had used that already. But it's funny, they didn't really do anything with it. They had a show and it had like 2 episodes and got canceled or something. But so I was like looking around.
Yeah.
There's no YouTube. There's no social media.
Yeah,
anything.
You're like, am I getting in any copyright, trademark?
Yeah,
you don't want to build it up and then get sued.
Yeah. I mean, It only took me a couple minutes to be like, oh, it was on network television. But then I was, but that's kind of like the thing is like, it's myself and a couple buddies that are like, we do different, like I have a barbecue friend. I don't do a ton of that, but we're all just food obsessed with different kind of specialties. So the name of the channel is going to be Kitchen Head.
Kitchen Head, okay.
Which basically sums up my, you know what I mean? If we're talking and I zone out, I'm either thinking of what I'm going to cook later, what I'm going to eat later, or, something like that. So that's like...
Kitchen Head, I like it. Do you, how long do you think the episodes will be? I guess it doesn't matter. It could vary every single...
They will vary, but 7-8 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
Something real palatable, but like enough to like...
Yeah, you should send me spinach dip when you have time, and I'll see if I can work something out. I've realized, I think after having my son, I noticed how much I just sing out loud around him. You know what I mean? When you just make up songs, like anything to get them to stop crying or to play with games or whatever.
I do that too, but I have zero musical talent and can't sing.
Well, and I don't know, man. I make up all these little songs around him, and then I realized when I was helping with Michael Pasvar's podcast, I made his music. I made a little bit for this show, and I made some for John Stringer recorded a bunch of stuff with his mom that has Alzheimer's. I don't think he's released it yet.
So I listened to the I'm a fan of episode, but I have not listened. Oh, he hasn't released it
I don't think he's released any of it, and I'm kind of curious if he's going. I don't know if that's one of those things he's going to wait, until I guess maybe her dementia fully takes over. Maybe she passes away. I don't know how he's going to do that, but I was able to make some music for him for that too. And it was, I don't know, man, it's really fun. There's something fun about, you're not writing a song. You're just writing like a chunk for the thing. I don't know.
Well, and it's also like when it's something, I don't know, parameters make for good creative things.
Yeah, because all of the stuff is totally different. So you don't feel like
a band that has to sound. Thing was just like a beat and the... Is that your voice? I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's my voice. Yeah. And I just had a little thing where I could like modulate it really low.
Yeah.
And and it's just so much fun. And literally like you're just sitting there on a laptop just going like, fuck, what's some weird sounds, because he'd kind of told me a little bit of what he wanted, and then I just had a sense of kind of Pazvar's personality, the kind of guy he is. And it's still, every single time I make something though, it's super nerve-wracking when you send it to somebody and you're like, okay, here's what I was thinking for you.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, and thankfully he was like, oh, no, I like it. I'm showing it to my wife. They like it. And then he sends me a video of like his kids like screaming it in the house while they're running around. I was like, okay, all right.
Nice.
We're good here.
Yeah, now I believe you that you like it. That's
but when I first sent it, I was like, this is so fucking stupid. This is going to sound so dumb. So I enjoy that little creative roller coaster,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough because, I mean, even if me and you both like hip-hop or we both like punk rock, I could be like, oh, this is my favorite song. You go, oh, no, I don't like that.
Hip-hop.
Yeah. And, like, but so when it's something that's, like, so much more abstract and, like, it's not meant for you to just rock out to.
Nope.
It's, like, just has to strike you in a way that...
And it's got to sum up what you're doing, right? That's what you're showing to strangers. It's the first couple seconds. And if they hate it, that could make them hate your thing.
Yeah.
And so it's I like that kind of pressure though. It's really fun because the stakes are so low, it doesn't matter. It's just your feelings, but but yeah, it's I love doing those. I think I would, in another life, I would have been like a jingle writer for like commercials.
Sure.
But I don't think I'm going to start that now.
I don't know, man. You get one.
Just one?
You know? Oh, this is so dumb. But I was saying to Kate, we were going somewhere in Burleson, and she was like, oh, yeah, so we'll exit Alsbury and whatever. And I was like, yeah, Southtown Ford. And she was like, what, do you know what I'm talking about? You're a Dallas guy?
Yeah.
Southtown Ford, Southtown 35. And she started singing it along with me and hadn't heard. But I'm just like, dude, the guy that did that jingle was getting paid off commercials for 2 decades.
Okay. I got a little story about that because it's so genius. But the guy, Dr. Death, the Dr. Death podcast series, that guy here locally who was the surgeon who killed those people.
Yeah, well, we don't claim him locally. He's not from here.
Well, right.
He moved here to murder
He just
all those
murdered
people.
them here, yeah. So there's a doctor, one of the doctors that helped catch him. His name is Randy Kirby, Dr. Randy Kirby. And he was one of the good guys who helped catch.
Did they say his real name on the podcast?
He does like interviews and stuff on the podcast.
I got mush brain. Maybe
there's 2 of them. There's 2 of them on the podcast. They might have changed the name for the movie because they did an actual theatrical movie, and then
when you're a practicing physician, you don't really need.
I don't know
your name to be all over the place for that.
From the podcast, he seems like the type of guy who is more than happy to be like, I'm that guy. Okay, and so saying all that to. I have friends of friends who knew him, and they said every time he introduced himself, he'd be like, I'm Dr. Randy Kirby, I'm double board certified.
Bob Vance Refrigeration.
Exactly. And it's like, that's the branding. He's like, he's nailed. That's because what was the dealership around here where it was like, I think it was like Clay Cooley. He's like, I'm Clay Cooley at this dealership. Come see me on 1212 Loop 12.
Round man with a square deal.
Yeah. It's like that kind of branding is like, that's like old school Mad Men shit,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so effective. And I was like, the guy really does that? And they're like, yeah. Every time he introduces himself. Not in a
board certified.
Yeah, apparently he's double board certified, Dr. Randy Kirby.
And here we are. More free publicity talking about, you know what I mean?
It's genius, yeah. It's genius. So,
and that's like base level grassroots branding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One person at a time.
It made me wonder, like when I heard that story, it made me wonder if I should be introducing myself as like, hey, I'm Travis Wright, local podcaster.
Yeah. How's it going? At Travis Can Listen. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Travis Wright, podcast host at Travis Can Listen. And then just because at first I think people would just be like, the guy always introduces himself this way. It's fucking ridiculous. It's like it's so. But eventually it would just.
You know the guy. His Instagram handle
is
exactly
him.
this.
Yeah, you know him.
Well, because
if we talk about like the local ambulance chaser lawyers, you know all of them, right? You know the Hammer. You know the Law Hawk. You know these guys.
You sit there and make fun of it. Once an 18-wheeler hits me, I'm fucking calling Jim Adler.
I'm calling
I don't know
Jim
what else to
fucking
do.
Adler.
It's been ingrained.
Yeah, dude, the Law Hawk had a Super Bowl commercial. Do you remember that?
No.
The Law Hawk was somehow in a Taco Bell Super Bowl commercial. He had gotten that much exposure from being the Law Hawk, and it was just as cheesy as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. And
yeah, lean into that.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything else.
He's like, fuck yeah. He's like, Law Hawk, you know? So you're going to have to do something like that with Kitchen Head.
I guess so.
Yeah, it's...
Hi, Steve Gammill, Kitchen Head Extraordinaire.
Kitchen Head Extraordinaire.
I'll be the head kitchen head. No?
Something.
Lead kitchen fucking loser.
Well, how many of y'all are going to be a part of this? Is it mainly you?
You're looking at it, baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think...
but I've already got a name for my entourage and fan. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
The Kitchen Heads.
And then the groupies will be Kitchen Head Chicken Heads. Which sounds like I rehearsed that. That's kind of gross, but I thought of it just now.
Do you enjoy making food just for like a couple people, or do you see yourself ever wanting to do, a food truck or catering or events? What do you like?
Catering is super duper fun, but it is a rough business to be in. It's all, and I haven't done anything like that, and since before the social media age, so I'm sure how much that has changed everything is maybe for the better, or maybe makes it even harder. But catering's awesome because you do a different menu, a different thing. You go on site. There's fucking fires to put out. Never a dull moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think doing that sort of stuff just on its own would be super difficult and probably lose money on it, and be nerve-wracking. But if you had, say, a food truck or something that was home base, and then you could do private events and whatever, because I've done front of house, back of house, all sorts of stuff like that, and it's a lot funner than just sitting behind the line making the same hamburger over and over.
Yeah. I've always had dreams of owning a food truck, but I don't have any culinary experience. You know what I mean? I just want to be the person taking orders and helping out where I can. But I want it to be my thing though. But I don't want to work for a food truck. Right. But I don't know what I would make.
I have nothing of value to contribute, and yet I want to be the boss and not
exactly.
break a sweat.
Yeah. So you can see why it's not a great business plan, but
it just seems funner than having a
well, I mean, come
restaurant.
on, and how much fun does it at least? It at least appears fun to pull up somewhere, swing open the doors,
and your food's supposed to be crazy.
Yeah.
So people go, I don't know, you're putting fucking jalapeno poppers on a cordon bleu sandwich. And, actually, that's not that crazy. But, and you can go, if you don't like it, that's because you're not adventurous. This is food truck food.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be.
Oh, you just don't get it.
Yeah. In 5 years, they're going to fucking love this.
Well, the closest I came is, I was drunk and we were just trying to think of fun names. And we were thinking, what would drunk food be, And so I want to start a truck that is, it's all gravy, baby.
Nice.
So it's gravy themed.
Yeah,
and
it was just
poutine
truck.
Yeah, it's just going to be finger food, chicken strips, fries, that kind of stuff. And because I was thinking we got to keep it simple, like In-N-Out and those places where it's just a few ingredients. We're just going to do as much as we can. But my piece that was going to get the drunk people in was I wanted to find a way to either make a chicken fried chicken or a chicken fried steak in the shape of a waffle cone. Like an ice cream cone, okay? And then you put a scoop of mashed potatoes in there, little gravy on top with some bacon bits and cheese, and you're eating your chicken fried chicken or whatever like an ice cream cone. So you can, as you're drunk going from this bar to that bar, you can, still eat food. You don't have to have a plate.
You can't call it food truck food if you need a plate and a fork.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so
again, parameters making it
and
fun.
so I thought, the cone would be the key to all of it. And then
chicken fried steak cone. That's a tall order, but
I know.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know if that's even possible. In my drunk mind, I was like, we just make it, and then we put some toothpicks or something in there. It'll hold.
Right.
It'll hold. But I thought, if you're drunk, walking through Deep Ellum or, Sundance Square, wherever, it's like, that would hit pretty hard right then.
Yeah. Well, they're doing that over the good folks over at Taco Bell are making a piece of fried chicken into a taco shell.
All right. So that's my market research. I just need to go shopping over there.
Yeah. You got to wait every 2 years when they bust that piece of shit out again. You got to fucking go have some.
Well, that'll be my thing. Is like Taco Bell doesn't have it, but I do.
Yeah.
Come down here to It's All Gravy, baby, off 1212 Loop 12.
Yeah. And then when that's their featured item for the month, you take that month off.
Yeah. Just shut it down.
You're not going to compete with.
That's when we go to Hawaii with all my profits.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, there's something about the serving of the food, if it's good food, that I get jealous of, because when you give someone a good meal, there's a genuine happiness that they have of like, this is really delicious. My wife is so much more of a foodie than I am. I think I just have a shit palate and I just don't appreciate it. And then I grew up poor, so I think years of eating horrible processed foods has just altered my sense of what really, really tastes good, because I love shitty garbage food.
I'm the same way, by the way.
And she actually loves, lots of variety in her meals and everything. And when you see her really enjoy a meal, she's like, did you try this? I'm like, nah, I don't want to try that. She's like, you need to try this. I'm like, but I hate those things. And it's that married couple boring quarrel.
Right.
You get so
she
jealous.
Makes you a better person, and you kind of drag her back down.
Oh, yeah, I bring her into the muck, man. Yeah. She'd be soaring high without me. But, yeah, when you see someone get a delicious meal that they really enjoy, I mean, come on, what's better than that?
When a group of really talkative people shut the fuck up and you just hear those, it's like, that's what you do it for. But
kind of blending worlds, I have a question about food and comedy, which is...
I'm your guy.
Comedy clubs have shitty fucking food. It's always pretty terrible, right? In my experience.
The ones I play do.
In my experience, it's all like barely, it's just bar food, really, right?
Yeah.
Have you played it? Have you been to any clubs or played at clubs that had like a really good meal? Because it seems like way back in the day, I guess, maybe in like the 70s, it's like the club was like you might get a plate of food.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that's good or bad. Do you think having really delicious food at a comedy club is important, or would it just kill the vibe because you're just chewing and eating?
I think you don't need anything that's a distraction. If you need a knife and fork, I think you're not paying enough attention to the comic. That being said, like the food truck thing, you can have great food that's easy to eat, but at the end of the day, you're given, what's the fucking loony bin thing? You're giving them lobotomy, which is a pitcher. It's like a small pitcher, but it's a pitcher of rum and vodka with some grenadine in it. And
that's going to do the trick.
Yeah, and so they're not going to be writing home about the fucking quesadilla,
That's true.
So at the end of the day, I think it's dollars and cents. And I think Hyenas did something where they put hot dogs on the menu because it was COVID. They were just starting to open back up, and it was like 50% capacity and whatever. And then I went back like months later and I was like, they're still doing the fucking hot dog? What is this? It's all just out of a fryer, from the freezer to the fryer to the basket. Let's not take it down a notch.
Dallas Comedy Club attempts to have a better menu. Their food,
I think Plano has like
Plano House of Comedy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've never gotten to the point in my career that I could eat at the club. I perform, I have like the 2 free drinks that they give me, and then I go back to the condo and drink the bottle of Jack that I bought and the fucking ramen noodles.
Oh, man.
That's a lie. I don't.
You know what you could do when you inevitably go back to comedy, because I think you will, is when I was in my music days, you remember the Warped Tour, an old tour that nobody remembers anymore, but that was like 30 bands, right, that would travel around. And the newest band was always the barbecue band. So the newest band or whoever, they were responsible for cooking all of the food, because after every single Warped Tour, they would all go back and eat barbecue, and all the bands would kind of hang out and mingle. So similar to like comics hanging out in a green room. Now the Warped Tour would like buy all the food and stuff. They were just like, you're on burgers, you're on dogs, you're plating it. And it was just kind of a way for them to bond and like a little bit of a ritual and like hazing without hazing. And they got tipped by the people who went through the line, so they still made money at the end of the night. So it was just a very fun, like...
it's also, you're the one that everybody needs to get to know. So this puts your face in front of...
The new band meets all the big bands.
Yeah.
And you're giving them food, so they're like, oh, hey, man, come on, man, give me like 2 of the burgers, But you could be the guy who, like, after the show is like, cooking shit up in the green room with your little hot plate or something.
Yeah.
That could be your thing.
Well, I always try to be that guy at the condo. When you get a lot of different Steves on the road. Sometimes I'm like on my bullshit and I'm cooking up chicken breast and whatever. And then sometimes I'm like eating like garbage. Just go to Walmart when I get into town and buy all the frozen shit. But I've brought like my big wooden peel and my pizza steel, and like I've made sourdough in Little Rock. And like,
when you start pulling that out, what are the other comics saying?
Sometimes they're super into it, and they're like the guys that you were gonna hang with anyways. And then I'm just like, oh yeah, and they go, oh well, you gotta have hobbies out here, I guess. But, go back in my room and play Xbox like a fucking.
They're texting somebody. We got this fucking sourdough guy here.
Yeah, but I've never been as much like, hey everyone, I made. Normally it's like, is everyone drinking? I made these 2 pizzas, and they're like, oh shit.
Oh, dude, that's got to be awesome though.
Yeah.
That would be really funny if you, if you had a competing comic who's like, I'm the guy who cooks. Like if you show up and Tom Papa's there making bread.
Right.
And he's like,
at that point,
I run the show here, Mr. Gammill.
Yeah.
Dude, you must be the most loved person at a condo, though, when you drop off 2 pizzas to drunk people.
Yeah, I mean, I would like it if I was them. But I think a lot of these guys, and that's what the funny thing is you go out there and you find out is like, and I'm talking about when I say condo, these are, with a few exceptions, a lot of it is the Looney Bin, the 4 locations. And a lot of these guys that are headlining have been working the road for 30 years. They're pretty set in their ways. And you also think of like this giant party with all these degenerates, and it's like, sobriety is rampant, and the headliners are like, dude, these are the clubs I do, and I'm not on the cruise shit. This is my job. This is how I put my grandkids through college or whatever, and this is what I do. This, and this, and I'm not here to party with you. And then the feature is always on the way up. So they're like, when I'm not on stage, I'm like, oh, tomorrow you want to go out and get barbecue? And they're like, I'm editing a podcast and I'm doing 3 other things. And they're just like workaholic mode a lot of the time.
I'm just picturing you in like your apron and like a chef's hat.
Yeah.
You're sad. You're just like, well, I guess I'll eat these pizzas.
Yeah. Like I'll chain smoke and get blackout. If you guys you guys have fun.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it from that angle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of what you would think about.
It's the opposite of what you think, yeah. Well, my mind either thinks it's very sad boredom or party. I forget that there's a middle ground in there.
Yeah,
like
or everything in between.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like I'll be emceeing, and the headliner is also a married guy with kids, and then the feature act is the guy that wants to go out and try and get laid. And I'm like, I could have like 2 beers with you, man, but I'm on a budget. And if
you just show up as the wingman, you're like, well, someone please fuck him. I'm tired. Just somebody hook up with him tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, and fuck him in his car, because if he brings girls back here, we're all in trouble, and then I don't have enough tacos for everyone.
You're like, the ratio is all off. Yeah. Okay, I've got a certain amount.
You didn't tell me you were bringing a +1. This is...
Oh, man. What kind of food truck would you do if you did one?
Well, I want to do... And this is not fun and exciting, but it's like something I would actually consider. In my wife's mom's little neighborhood, there's a little cart. If you drive by it in the evening, it'll be shut and it'll say sold out. And then at the top, it says breakfast burritos.
Ooh.
And I've never woken up early enough to go over there and get one, but... I would like to do that, kind of like I said earlier, just take something simple and good that everyone loves and just elevate it to a certain level. So I would like to have it wouldn't even have to have a cooking equipment inside. It could just be a way to sell the food. Yeah. So a little cart like that, but with like breakfast burritos and like a really simple, easy menu.
Yeah, really all you would have is like hot storage just to keep it warm while you're driving that morning.
But everything would be as good as I can make it. So instead of just Jimmy Dean sausage, it would be slow smoked pulled pork. You know what I mean? And
that's a pretty great way because it's simple. The ingredients are simple. You don't have to worry about a truck that has all this complex equipment that needs repairs.
Yeah, taking that element out of it alone. Because my buddy, that he's just like an entrepreneurial type. Actually, his toy store is where I would park this hypothetical cart. But so he's just like that. He's like, if you got a great idea, let's find somebody with some money and let's do it. So we've joked around about food trucks for years, and he'll always send me a Craigslist ad for a bus that doesn't work. And I go, bro, you don't know how to fix a bus. I sure as fuck don't know how to fix a bus. And then
listen, man, you'll figure it out. You'll find the person who knows how to fix it.
Long story short, this motherfucker has a bus that he does a traveling record store in.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You know who you need?
So shout out to Empire Toys and Keller and whatever he's calling that.
It's in Keller?
Bus. Yeah.
What's it called?
Empire Toys.
Empire Toys is the name of the record store or his other business?
That's the toy store.
Toy store. But that guy's got a record truck.
I think it's like Main Street Art Trucks.
All right, I'm going to have to
something Main Street.
I'll look it up
something.
because that sounds really cool.
Yeah. I just realized how shitty that would be to talk about all of his businesses.
And not mention it.
Yeah.
Don't you know John Brown through the comedy scene? Mm-hmm. He's like the fix-it guy.
That's true, yeah. If you were going to get a non-working school bus.
Did you ever look at his... what's that car he bought? The LeSabre?
The LeBaron.
LeBaron.
Yeah.
Did you ever like look under the hood of that car?
No.
Okay, and I'm only saying it because he openly says it, but whatever neurotic tendencies he has from his mental illness that he has, oh my God, he cleans the fuck out of a car. His car, because this thing is from like 1980, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he pops the hood and he's showing me all the work he did to this thing. Meticulous, detailed work. And the engine bay looks cleaner than my 2017 Tacoma out here. And like you can tell the guy just like lights a cigarette or whatever, puts the music on, and just goes to work.
Yeah.
And I believe...
Yeah, he'll sleep for 2 days, but then he'll fix 5 cars in the following...
Yeah. Like, he's never going to run a store, but he can get your project done.
Right.
And it's going to... Because he was even showing me, like, he's like, yeah, man, I pulled this off to readjust the rear bumper. He's like, but it's like a centimeter off here, and I really need to get that fixed. And it was just like... And you're looking at the car going, nobody would ever care about this LeBaron as much as you have. Like, this car could not have ended up in better hands right now.
Right.
And, like... Again, so proud of it, too. Like, he was like, dude, you want to go around the block and drive? And I was like, no, I don't want to drive it in, but I appreciate it.
You know, as far as like it being kind of like an odd, random vehicle,
yeah,
it's a pretty sweet ride.
And it fits him perfectly.
Yeah, it's so him.
Perfectly. Yeah, and so if you find that bus, man, I bet he'd fix the shit out of it.
That's true.
That's your guy right there, man.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain him to my wife. I was like, he just needs the project and then leave him the fuck alone. Come back in 3 weeks, okay?
Yeah.
And it's gonna be
on his timeline, but it'll be done.
He'll text you, and then it's gonna look awesome. Yeah, that's dude. You got to do the burrito thing.
I just might.
That is so simple, and the beauty of that is you could get that done and then still have time to like take your daughter to school.
Yeah, well, that I don't know about. The problem is if you wanted it to be hot and fresh and whatever, you'd have to be smoking meat throughout the night, however that would look, and then somebody would have to be manning that motherfucker from 5 a.m. to whenever you sell out.
Right, but if they're good burritos, you're going to be done by 7. You're going to be done, man, because if people have to be at work.
If I'm done by 7, I'm making 50 more the next day.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you'd be done by 7 or 8 in the morning.
Yeah,
like
after a while, you'd get a feel for when it dies. And how much
and then it's like now you got your take a nap, do whatever you need to do, work on your cooking show, and then you'd still be able to have a lot of family time. And like if you're slow cooking something like that, I mean, you'd figure out your system. You just need to figure out exactly how you like to do it, and then roll it through the night. We bought a PK grill. Have you heard of those?
Mm-mm.
I might have to let you just borrow my grill to see if you like it.
There's a new fucking gadget.
This is an old grill. So I found it because my wife wanted a grill. I don't really care about grilling. She wants stuff cooked on a grill. Mm-hmm. And like the one thing I can do is I can cook a steak okay, you know? And so I was like, I don't want like a propane grill. I don't know what I want. And I just started doing some research. And the guy who runs Franklin's down in Austin, he had mentioned these PK grills, which have been, the model we got has been virtually unchanged since like the late 60s or something. Huh. It is a simple, pour whatever you want in their grill. It's kind of rounded, like it looks like a giant, like a loaf of bread maybe. Like it's kind of oval and rounded. And the lid like lifts up to the side. It doesn't lift up like a traditional one. and it's made out of aluminum. So there's something about that and these rounded edges, and then there's just 4 vents, 2 up top, 2 down low, and so you can control your indirect and direct heat, however you want to do it. And something about the aluminum, the shape, and those vents makes it great for slow cooking things like that. You get a lot of control with it on a really basic setup. And then what's even more cool about it is you can take every single piece apart. It's so simple. Like you could literally put it in the dishwasher if you wanted to. So it's just this ultra simple grill, and that's kind of why I liked it. And it's really small though. But like if you were doing small briskets or whatever, for what you're talking about, it sounds like you'd be able to just almost set it and forget it, within reason.
Yeah.
But it's been pretty. I've never attempted a big project like that on it, but I
Those
like the grill.
Those things are great for not being intimidating. You know what I mean?
That's why we got it. I was like, this is entry level.
Could you imagine every guy and their dog trying to fucking barbecue like they do now if those pellet smokers had never been?
No.
Have you tried doing an offset?
When I looked at all
you got to do is keep a fire going for 18 hours. And I'm like, fuck.
Well, even just with this grill, it's like learning the differences of like briquettes versus lump coal and all these, not coal. Charcoal. And all these things, it's like there's such a learning curve. It's like I don't have a thermometer to see where temperatures are. I'm just gauging things. And so it's like, when you first start cooking stuff, you're burning all sorts of shit, and then it's not cooking long enough. And that to me is the only part I like about grilling is the process, like learning more about it. But I've never been that person where I'm like, I'm ready to commit 12 hours to this thing.
If you do that and you go, I could do that better next time, but you don't go, honey, how many days can you... Like, how quickly could we have this again? That's what I do when I don't get something the way I like it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you don't want to have this for dinner again tomorrow, but you could have it Saturday.
Yeah.
And we're going to have that, whatever. I went to a New Year's party, and a cousin of mine is a really good barbecue guy. And I showed up, and he had made those big dinosaur beef ribs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They really look like...
Yeah, they look cartoonish.
Yeah, and of course, it's the Instagram era, so those are more popular than they need to be. But so he had made those. I was like, oh, man, they look really good. And he goes, yeah, they're a little bit drier than I wanted them to be. And I normally don't use a rub. I'm normally just a salt, pepper, garlic guy, blah, blah. And he just explained everything. And they look like a fucking... like something straight off Instagram or food porn. And all he wanted to do was tell me the 4 things he would have done differently. And I go, that's how I know you're a good cook.
Yeah. I know this is going to be fine when I taste it.
Yeah.
And no matter how much you say, like, no, it tastes great. He's like, no.
Yeah, I didn't argue with him.
Yeah.
I just go, oh, now I want them. Yeah. And of course, they were perfect and whatever, but he's going to be having those beef ribs again. His poor wife. I will say the one thing about my cooking. My wife has pizza more often than she probably wants, but pizza's a thing you can eat a lot.
Who doesn't love pizza?
This dude's wife is like, I didn't even like smoked meats that much in general. And now that I have them every week, week in and week out, I'm like,
she's like,
poor Brooke.
I'm having trouble breathing. I haven't taken a shit in 6 months.
Yeah, maybe that's how she'll get out of it. She'll be like, the doctor said my cholesterol is that of a 60-year-old man.
Oh my gosh. I need one meal that I love to cook. That people love to receive. Like you were talking about with the spinach dip where they're like, is he going to make this? Because now that, before, like my wife and I are married obviously, but before we had our son, the family functions, there wasn't really any spot for me to like bring something or do something. But now that we have a kid, for some reason, I think we're going to more family functions, and it seems like I need to start contributing a piece to the food we're eating. But I don't know what the fuck I'd want to cook. I don't know. I need to figure out something.
Yeah, well, first you got to decide what, you're not just going to start cooking the turkey on Thanksgiving.
No.
Things are already in place.
Yeah.
So maybe if you find out where you can get in, where you fit in.
Well, if I had it my way, we would never do anything like turkey on the holidays. Because I just like non-traditional food on, I think the holiday meal stuff is really, I don't know. Or I just don't have anyone in our family that just is an amazing cook where you're just like, oh, hell yeah, I'm looking forward to that turkey this year. You know? But, like we went to one where they did like an Italian style one that was really good. So I don't know.
On what, Thanksgiving?
On Christmas.
Italian Christmas?
Yeah, it was like lasagna, spaghetti, that kind of stuff. And I thought that was great.
Yeah, I always thought that my mom always brings tamales.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, instead of this this and this bland ass thing. Why don't we build off that and go more?
Have you watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine when Andy Samberg's character hates Thanksgiving? And he's like, the Pilgrims were murderers, and turkey tastes like napkins.
Yeah, it's tough to get. That's another good thing about like the era that we're in, cooking wise, is like you used to have like one guy in the family that could fry a turkey or deep or smoke one or something, and now like everybody, it's like we said, having all the info at your fingertips, you got a lot better shot.
Okay, actually, the only reason I want turkey to stay on the menu is because I love every Christmas and Thanksgiving watching the new compilation videos of people almost burning their house down frying a turkey.
It's definitely the most dangerous.
It is the most dangerous
item,
and you see it. And I feel bad for some of them because I know in the moment it all makes sense, and when you're just Monday morning quarterbacking it, you're like, that's clearly too much oil, right? Because I know it's coming. But man, when they drop those in there and flames erupt, and the panic sets in,
and you're like, oh, you shouldn't have done that in the carport. You should have taken it a few more feet.
When you're watching the video, when you're watching the replay, you're like, it's all so obvious. But in the moment, that guy is about to be king of Thanksgiving this year. I'm going to deep fry this turkey for my family.
I've never worked in a kitchen. I'm not, but I had a fried turkey 2 years ago. It's my time to try it.
I saw one where the guy knew what he was doing was like fucking stupid. Like you could tell he knew.
That I can get behind.
He knew he was in over his head because his kid kept trying to get closer to see what was going on. And he's like, "This is dangerous. Get away!" And the kid like wouldn't back up. And finally, he like snaps and he's like, "I said to get the fuck away!" And then he still drops it in, and flames come up, and it's like, "Oh my god, you knew this was going this route."
Yeah, you just thought you were just on the other side of the fence of it not going too badly.
Yeah, that's like the deep fried turkey catching things on fire compilations every year that come out now.
Yeah, fuck the Sturgill Simpson song. Send me some of that.
I'm going to send you that. Yeah,
that's what I really want.
All right, man. We're going to end it on that. Dude, thanks for coming on here and talking about your radical sabbatical.
Thanks for having me.
I know that's a weird thing to go through, but if you do put down comedy forever, I'll understand, but I'll be sad about it. I think you'll come back sooner than you realize.
What I think will probably happen is I'll die, and that album will become worth $1 million.
Well,
is that how it works?
Mana would be very happy about that. And then I'm definitely psyched about. Oh my god, I almost called it chicken heads, kitchen heads. Very psyched about that, man. I hope you get that off the ground at a nice steady pace where you're really happy with it and you really like what you're putting out.
I think I'm really going to like the music.
Yeah, okay. Normally I would be like, where do you want people to follow you to see your live shows and stuff? But you're not doing those now. So where do you want people to look out for Kitchen Heads?
I mean, Kitchen Head, singular. And,
Kitchen Head, sorry.
I got the channel and I got all the social media stuff.
So can I go follow Kitchen Head right now, even though it's a blank page? And just
I believe
wait?
So. Yeah, okay. I think Instagram and TikTok, it's kitchen_head_show.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
I want to see some of your first posts ever. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone's first stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, on social media. That'll be cool.
Yeah, and it'll be more fully formed than if it was comedy stuff because I'll have had time to think about what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish when you first asked me about this, I was like, oh, I hope the first episode will be out by the time it airs, but it's looking like not.
Well, it still might be.
Yeah.
When do you think you'll release the first one?
I don't know. How long's that jingle going to take?
Okay, all right. We can push this back if we need to.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, dude, really excited, and obviously welcome back anytime, man. Just let me know. The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.